Let's talk about our favorite topic here, and that is growing your podcast. But we're going to look at it from a very different angle than we have before on the show. To do that, we are chatting with Ledge. He is the co-founder and revenue lead at Listen Network. You can find out more about them at listennetwork.co. Ledge, thank you for being here today.
Matthew, it's good to be here. I enjoy your content, so I'm absolutely thrilled to be in the club.
I appreciate that, and your check is in the mail for that comment. So you have a very interesting background. You've actually had a ton of success already in podcasting, even before this Listen Network venture. Tell me a little bit about how you fell into podcasting and how you got from starting there to where you are today.
Yeah, I am a sales guy, entrepreneur, sort of polyglot, and the interesting thing is that when you start companies, and this is 20 years ago, I started getting into it, and everybody wants to be a practitioner, but nobody wanted to do anything and sell. So I said, well, I guess I should learn how to sell things, and I started doing that, and I became good at the sales side and actually enjoyed it. So at one particular adventure, I was trying to sell something that was essentially 10 times as much as people were buying it for, at that point, and it was a premium product or service. And I said, no one's going to take my outbound. They're not going to want to in any way engage with me. But what if I just say, hey, you want to be on my podcast? I talk to experts like you. And so, other people were doing that at the time. I didn't know what that was. I thought I was unique and special. It was about 2017. So I cannot say in any way that I pioneered ABM podcasting, but I can say that I came to that realization at the same time, maybe as others. And I ended up, it worked. And we ended up doing millions of dollars of revenue with just the guests and kept running that playbook, ever since. And then I got into selling actual podcast agency services particularly in B2B. And from that adventure, I became fascinated with this problem where, shows would start and people would want to test them, or let's see if this works, or how do you know if a podcast works? And this is like a very nuanced thing. And they would come back ultimately after, their Q1 or Q2 budget meeting, and they would say, yeah, my boss canceled it because they don't see the ROI. And I'm like, well, that's interesting and weird. And I want to solve that problem because turns out, we, as a agency, industry, I guess, we tell clients a lot like, oh, hey, downloads don't matter. And let's go and, it's all about the audience and making sure you're telling the story. And let's do, episode retention, and let's do, consumption rate. And like, I agree with all those things, except I know this in sales, and I hope that other people can learn this, that if you go into a budget meeting and try to train people in like the 5 minutes that you get to speak your special niche language and then give you money, that's never going to work. So maybe downloads don't matter, in the grand picture, but you damn well better be able to tell the story of how that number went up and exactly who those people are. That's what gets you funding and runway, so that your show doesn't get canceled, you don't get fired, and your agency doesn't lose a client.
It's always nice for an agency to retain their clients. I want to go back real quickly to this idea of account-based marketing, or the idea where, instead of trying to cold call people, you were inviting them on your podcast to build leads. This was something that I've talked about famously on the show, and many times I've had plenty of clients who started podcasts with that exact intention, that audience of one, opening up warm relationships with people through podcast interactions. And I still think it is, for businesses especially, probably one of the most successful returns on investment for a podcast, even more so than advertising, because when you grow your network, you grow your opportunity set. Is that still something that you would advocate for podcasters today?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Particularly, so certain types of businesses, right? I think for service providers, it's fantastic. Like if this is about, I need to be liked and trusted, then that format is great. Now you could argue that that's true for any, large brand or anything like that. But My typical cutoff point was when, like, if people would say, oh, it's all about brand awareness, or it would be, it's like, we want to develop thought leadership content and blah, 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 the usual things that people would say. Like, if you're not doing over $1 billion in revenue, I suggest you go with this other strategy where it's just like, look, I agree we should do all those things, but thought leadership accrues from the people who are willing to talk to you and sit down. So why don't we start there and make a list of the top 100 companies that your sales team wants to do business with, and take it like an ABM strategy, and let's get you talking to those people and then promote them. So, I mean, for the rest of time, I could post on LinkedIn about how smart Mathew is and post clips of you. And eventually you want to do business and, in the area, and you remember that I exist. And this would happen years later. If you had a long sales cycle, it was the greatest way to get out of not having to send those quarterly, hey man, what's going on? Just checking in. Wondered if you wanted to talk about this thing we do. Like, it's so bleh. But what if I could just go and, just sort of regularly give you a touch point, and it was all about you. So there was a value reciprocity, to that. And it worked, over and over and over again. I would absolutely recommend that people do this. You just need to be in this channel. It's like, do a podcast, like, period. Like, just like you have a blog, like, you must do this.
Well, and truth is, it doesn't always have to be just a podcast, right? It's just content, right? It could just be on YouTube. It could just be, a live stream or something like that. But right, the idea is get out there, make relationships, connect with people, chat with people, repurpose all that material, right? Keep talking them up, keep getting your name on their radar so that they are going to remember you and think about you. And when, they're ready for that business, they're going to think, oh, let me go check out my buddy Ledge and see what
I remember that guy, and he says smart things about me, and, we share stuff, and yeah. And then you got to, work the DMs, like, actually chat with people. Like, it's gotten to the point now on LinkedIn in particular where you have to reach out and go, I promise I'm not going to pitch you. I actually just want to be interested and talk to you. So.
I wish I was getting more of those DMs on LinkedIn than the ones I am currently getting, which are usually, hey, I see you're a business owner. Time to look at your 401k.
Right. Yeah. Or, I mean, if you're in podcast growth, I mean, forget about it. Like, how many times does somebody slide into your DMs like, I'm a podcast growth specialist, I'll run you up the chart. And I'm just like, I'm not that guy, but potentially I could help you, but I also just think you're interesting and I want to chat. So.
Yeah. By the way, when that person slides into your DMs, red flag right away. Block, ignore, and move.
Right. I know. And that happens to me where I'm like, no, really. Like, I actually know about this, and I'm not going to sell that thing to you,
So let's talk about that. So now you're, founding partner here at Listen Network. And so you guys are doing like targeting, and extreme audience intelligence. How does Listen Network help podcasters? What is sort of like, call it the cheesy elevator pitch, story here.
Absolutely. So the thesis statement that I'm using is like, look, you need runway. Someone needs to pay for this show. This is either a very expensive hobby out of your pocket, there's an underwriter or a sponsor, or there's a company that's paying for it. And when you want somebody's money, you speak the language of that person to get that money. So if you're pitching this thing and someone needs to give you money, I guarantee you, whether we like it or not in the industry, they're going to say, how many downloads do you have? And then they're going to say, well, okay, who are those downloads? Because even if you have a large number, you could just buy a bunch of downloads, just like you used to buy Twitter followers. I did this years ago, and it was like, I still have 6,000 Twitter followers. I haven't logged into the thing in like 2 years. So whoever these people are, they're not real. And you could do that with downloads too. You can fake it. But what if you didn't fake it and you were able to use the power of paid media to get in front of exactly the target audience that you want to be aware of your show, and we can link that directly to downloads? Like, that's what Listen Network does. So super niche stuff. I don't know. It's like, we had one client who's like, we do digital twinning software for manufacturing entities that are in the engineering space of aerospace companies. So I only want downloads, and I only want to pay to get downloads from mid-level engineering job titles at aerospace companies. You can't do that in a normal context, but we built a thing where you can do that. So now we can say, I only want HR professionals who work in hiring and talent management at SaaS companies that are in the retail space. Like we can do stuff like that. And we can say, you got 500 downloads on that episode from exactly that audience. We know it. Oh, and by the way, you got 120,000 impressions right in front of your target audience to get there. And here's a report that shows it.
Yeah, I mean, beyond just the downloads, that brand recognition, right? Just having that podcast artwork or, the host face in front of people is also super powerful for many, many reasons. I love the way you were describing that niche. It almost sounds like that line in Spaceballs, right? Like,
I'm
former
surrounded by
uncles,
assholes.
cousins, roommate, right, whatever the line is, which makes us what? Absolutely nothing. So part of your thinking and part of your strategy is that you really think of podcasts more like a startup than as a content venture. Where did that thought process come from, and how do other podcasters approach things that way? Like what do they have to do differently from what you commonly see from your past clients and from people coming over to Listen Network?
Yeah, I think that I like to say, I think a startup is, or rather, a podcast is a media startup dressed up as content. And it has a product side and it has a promotion side. And if we were to start a business at any point, if you've ever been an entrepreneur, sought funding, done a thing, whatever, like it would be ludicrous to go out and say, let's spend all our money and all our time and energy building a product, and then let's not tell anyone about it. Right? Or let's just post on social and magic things will happen. Like that doesn't happen. Yet we do this in podcasting all the time. We're all like, oh, it's
in other places too.
Yeah, right. And it's wrong for any business, but we do owned media. Yay, we have a podcast. That's the same thing as going, yay, we have a business. Okay, we didn't tell anybody about it. Oh, let's post on social. That's shared. Fine. Awesome. Well, it's cool. Maybe we'll get PR. That's earned. Well, okay, you missed paid. And we should drive traffic from day one to that thing who's exactly your target market ICP. If you don't do that, you're just relying on the long tail organic that you probably don't have the infrastructure to build, because you're going to post on LinkedIn. It's like, yay, I got 7 impressions. Like this isn't a thing. And why do we teach people that that's okay? That's a hobby that you're going to make nothing on. And you will never show ROI except like 2 years later. When are you going to go into a meeting with somebody and go like, yeah, I need you to pay for this thing that's going to get like near zero impact on my pipeline or in any way benefit my business, but I'd like your money because in 2 years it'll work. I mean, it's just like, that's not going to work in a place where people can spend their money on other things that work faster.
Yeah, and that are easier to track and have.
Yeah, right. Like this is a performance marketing world. Like budgets get spent on like results. Now, whether you can quibble all day long, like downloads, same as impressions. Fine. I get it. Like that doesn't actually mean anything, but people who spend money think it does.
So if I'm a podcaster, right, again, this isn't for every podcast out there, right? You're not, if you're like I think I said in an episode recently, right? If you and your buddy are in your garage talking about Star Wars and sports and whatever, probably not going to help you find your audience. But, let's say you are a business, you are a brand, you are a thought leader, right? You are someone who's trying to engage a B2B model. What is that like then to come and work with Listen Network?
Sure. But I would say you can target any audience. The question is that cost effective? Like if you want a bunch of Star Wars nerds, fine. I don't know how they're ever going to spend money for you, but you do get that vanity metric. Like I can target anything you want, right? So our objective was to say, well, the weird thing is that, sort of downloads happen. You don't know who they are. Why? Because podcasts are RSS and there's no data payload, and Spotify and Apple just want to hold all your data hostage because they don't want you to get out of the walled garden. So you're screwed. You can't show anything. I mean, there's a little bit, but there's like rough demographics from part of your audience, whatever it is. But who does have all the information? Podcast, or rather ad networks have all the information. They know everything about everybody. What was missing was the piece to say that download came from that ad. And so we built the connective tissue on that middleware that we can track both sides of that. So now we can say that download came from that ad, and here's the person who clicked on that ad and all their demographics. Not one-to-one attribution. That's creepy. Nobody does that. But you can say very detailed things about them in a B2B context. Obviously, that's really valuable because you can say it's exactly my target market and I know who they are. In a regular market or D2C, you might say, well, I want women, age 45 to 60, and they're interested in wellness products, or, things. You can do stuff like that too, intent-based, content-based. But anyway, when someone comes to us, they would just say essentially, like, here's my podcast, and here are the episodes that I would like to grow and promote in front of someone. It could be all, it could be one. And then we help them build an ad plan around exactly the target market. And then we report to it after. And we say, here's a report branded as you. You can show it to sponsors. You can use it in your pitch kit. You could use it in your budget meeting, whatever it is. But this is exactly what happened. And you're going to see a massive spike on that episode.
So it really is about individual episodes, right? Pushing that in front of the correct audience. We've talked to a couple of different folks who offer similar services. And when you really get down to the fine details of it, one of the things that comes up is that I see a spike when I run the promotion, but then this doesn't become a sustainable audience. Is that something that you see, or is that not something necessarily that you're thinking about? Or how did you guys differentiate yourselves from some of these more fly-by-night promotion sites that, seem to be able to say, yeah, we'll grow a show, but it doesn't really do anything. It doesn't actually convert or become ROI. Right.
And that is the definition of ROI. Sort of, I made a sale, and I completely agree with that. And that's the argument of, like, well, what about retention? And the reality of paid media in any context is, when I run a paid media campaign, I get some action. When I stop doing it, I stop getting some action. Some of those will retain because they're interested. Is your content good? Do people actually want to consume this thing again? Where we can work on retention is if you run multiple episodes, we can retarget those people. Hey, they downloaded episode 1. Let's retarget episode 2 to them. That's a retention mechanism. We also try to drive as many clicks as we can through a pop-up mechanism after the download to Apple, Spotify. Like, maybe those people follow. Unfortunately, those platforms won't let attribution tracking happen, right? So all I can tell you is a click went to that thing because of us. I don't know what they did, after that. And I think a lot of providers, kind of in our space, are maybe not just transparent. They're like, that's not how it works, and no one can do that. They're going to try to argue to you, like, we're trying to be the most white hat sort of provider. Like, these are the limitations of the world that we live in. And yeah, we're going to try to do whatever we can to drive retention. I would argue that retention on a show is based on the quality of content, is based on being in front of people over and over and over again. Like, you have to at least try to do that thing. What's the retention on posting a bunch of stuff on social? Like, nobody knows the answer to this. They just want to argue against why you shouldn't do paid. So, like, it's like, cool, like, don't do it. Fine. From the agency perspective, agencies can make more money doing promotion than production. The cost of production is going to zero. Like, there is no margin there. It will die. If your entire business is based on just selling marked up production, you are in a race to the bottom. If you add in this, you are now offering a full service thing, and you make more money and you retain clients. We ran this internally at our own agency until we spun it out. 40% better retention.
Wow. So you are not only engaged with individual podcasts, but you are engaged with production houses, agencies, right? Folks who manage many podcasts to help them. So with that in mind, then, right? Listen, we are not necessarily attracting the big boys of podcasting, right? I doubt that, someone from a huge network is sitting here listening and thinking, oh, maybe I should do that. So is your platform approachable for smaller podcasters? Is there like a minimum investment that they have to have in order for this to work?
For a smaller podcast, you could do it. The minimum for us is like 250 downloads an episode. Like they just won't run. You can't run a campaign that runs so small that it won't, to do that. So that's still going to put you in like another $1,000 a month, let's say, right? Like it's not a minimum because we want to take more of your money. It's just a minimum because it just doesn't work. Like they won't fire, so you can't run an ad campaign small enough to make that happen. And I would also argue, like in most cases, why are you trying to buy downloads in that context unless you have a monetizing entity on the other side? Where I do see this work is, say, I'm a niche podcaster. I've got 500,000, 10,000 downloads a month. I'm under that network threshold, but I'd like to pitch something to a sponsor because I have a dedicated audience niche. Well, now I can say to the sponsor, hey, part of your sponsor package is I guarantee you at least 1,000 downloads per episode are going to come exactly from your target market. And I'll give you this report after the fact. That works. But don't go buying downloads thinking eventually I'm going to be in a network, because that's silly. You'd have to keep spending money. The arbitrage doesn't work. You can't buy your way into CPM advertising. You're going to get crushed.
Well, and not only that, the platforms are getting smarter, and
sure,
they can recognize fake data from.
And they should. It's not in an essence that it's not fake, but it came from this channel. I mean, you can do fake. I could show you how to do fake. We have all the same vendors as everybody else. But what we're trying to do is be transparent of like, you could do that thing and it won't get you to the business result that you want. So if you want to run up the chart, we could sell you that and it's worth nothing. So if you maybe get value out of taking a screenshot of being up the chart for 3 days and then crash, I don't know what business that suits, but vanity is a thing. I'll sell you things to make you feel better. I want to sell you things that make your business actually grow.
Well, and you also want to sell things that get you to tell other businesses that this is a product that worked, that was effective, that, accomplished what they said they were going to set out to accomplish. And I saw the return. So as somebody who is offering the service and as somebody who's ran agency and sold, and helped lots and lots of podcasters, what is the biggest thing that, somebody comes to you wanting to do this, you take a look at their show and you go, I want to help you, but this is off, and let's fix this and then we'll run the campaign. Like, what's that thing that you find most people are messing up?
It's brand polish in that case. If it's too small, like it's just like, and then a lot of times that'd be creators just saying, oh, I want to grow my show because I want to, appeal to sponsors. And again, it goes to like treat it like a business, right? Like I get it. You might actually have really great things to say, but no one gets to your show. And when they go to your site, it's like a really bad video and like a brand that looks like it was on MySpace in 1995. And I'm just like, clean that up, right? Like it's put your Zoom shirt on and, look decent. Right. So, who's the audience, right? Like, again, if you're like, hey, we're the top like fanzine podcast for like Star Trek nerds or whatever, like that's amazing. Like be that, like, but if you're saying I want sponsors, I want brands to pay money to be repped by you, well then think about that presentation, right? So like we can't help you grow a show that in essence like doesn't look like it wants to be grown or doesn't care. Like, why are you doing this? It always comes back to the why. Like, why do you have this thing? Do you have it because it's fun and you like talking to people? Hell yeah. No one's ever going to pay you and it's going to come out of your pocket, but go have fun. Skiing's expensive. People like to do that for fun. But this, like, is it a business or is it not? And that's the first question that I would ask. I don't want to sell people things that are just like a pipe dream. Like, that's insane. So I'll be the first one to get on the call and be like, this is not for you. And, if you're serious about being in the other club, there are a million coaches and consultants. I'll introduce you to one. That's not my jam. Once you're ready to make some revenue and you want to think about how to actually have a business motion behind this, cool. We might be able to help you.
Love it. And really, I love the thing you said earlier on was why. And right, that's something that we just stress all the time. If you don't know why you're doing this, and more importantly, you don't know why your audience should care, you've probably lost the battle before it even started.
Yeah, like that's absolutely right. Like there should be a reason that you spend hours and hours and hours in front of a microphone and trying to get people to talk to you and editing and posting on social or whatever things you're doing. Like, why are you doing that? And what do you expect to happen at the end? And you see this a lot in like entrepreneurship, right? Like people start businesses with like no point except I think it's a cool idea. Like, all right, like again, that's hobby. Do it because you think it's fun. I don't care. Build your little thing and build an app, build a website. Just like do what you like and have an audience of one and be stoked with that. But when you're asking people for money, like have a reason.
Love that. Once again, we are chatting with Ledge. If you're looking for him on LinkedIn, David Ledgerwood is the full name, but he's the co-founder and revenue lead at Listen Network. Again, you can learn more about them at listennetwork.co. Ledge, of course, as someone who listens, you know, we're not going to let you go without asking you our great 3 questions about podcasting. So I'm sure we could do a full episode on this first one, but you know, give me 1 or 2. Where are some places you'd love to see some real improvement in podcasting? Again, from the production, distribution, even the listening side, right? Like, where's something that you're like, God, wish we could fix this today?
Yeah, definitely the conversion path. Like why is this? I mean, I get why it's so hard. It's RSS, like it's just designed to be open, but I mean, I want to connect with my audience. Like, why is this so freaking brutal? Like if people want to sign up and be, you know, like get on my email list, I got to drive them through all kinds of crap. Like, why can't there be some kind of like automated conversion path where it's like right in the app? Hey, put your email in. I'll send you my wrap up. I'll send you my extra stuff. Like, it's always about conversion. Like people are doing this for a reason. And I wish that there was a more tightly integrated path to develop an audience on different channels.
I'm going to ask you a follow-up there that I don't ask a lot of people, but do you think that RSS is here to stay for the long term, or do you think that we are coming up on maybe a transition and a change for this type of content?
I understand that there's a thing called Podcast 2.0, and they're trying to add a lot more functionality to, you know, RSS, start treating. I love the open feed thing. I think it should stay open. That's really cool. Like it's like email, right? Like choose your client. It doesn't matter. Let people do that. There's a lot of movement for open social media. Maybe that'll take off. Like closed gardens are bad for everybody. That said, you know, it's impossible to ignore the video and, you know, the YouTube approach and the Spotify video approach. Like they're all going different directions. So what you're seeing is like the big dogs try to prove that I'm the better way to do that thing. Therefore, stop doing the thing that actually made this medium cool in the first place. So will it go that direction? I mean, maybe. Did the world maybe learn some lessons from allowing all content and social media to be behind a walled garden? Hopefully, like podcasters and the podcast industry in general it seems to be dedicated to openness. But I'll also tell you that if you go talk to anybody in a younger generation, what's a podcast? They go, oh, it's that thing on YouTube where people sit and talk, right? So could we evangelize differently? I don't know. I mean, I would lament that. I think a lot of like purists and, you know, old school people in podcasting would cry, but it's also pretty cool. And who knows what's going to happen. I would hate to see it devolve to, you know, the battle of the walled gardens, because distribution's a freaking nightmare then. Now it just takes like an hour to push all your thing like individually to every different protocol, and it just becomes a mess. But of course, that's what those major corporate entities want you to do. Like,
they want the biggest garden.
Yeah.
All right. What about, is there any tech on your wish list, whether it's something that is out there that you just haven't purchased or something that you're waiting for someone to come up with to make podcasting easier for you or your clients?
So I've had a Stream Deck in my drawer, like waiting to be plugged in for like 2 years and never even played with the thing. It's like, that looks really interesting. And I think there's a lot of cool opportunities to introduce better visual, representations and, other stuff into the video side. So I have that tech. It's in the drawer and I should try to use it. I also am very interested in, I forget who makes this thing, but because solo episodes are becoming so big and I'm trying to do more of that. I love those teleprompters with like the camera in bed type of deal on it. Like that looks super cool. Like you can give eye contact and still read and not look weird. But again, that's a video driven entity. So potentially evolution where more integrated audio content would be, really cool. And again, that goes back to the first question. It was like, well, I want to do like a full cycle relationship management through audio. Somebody should invent things that make that work, where interactive audio is actually a thing and it doesn't depend on, one universe or the other.
The Elgato teleprompter is one of the ones that just came out recently that does a nice job with it. However, I will tell you, it works best with either their camera or, a mirrorless camera with like a full lens on it. I tried running it on, I have a Logitech Brio, and actually I even tried it on my iPhone using Continuity Cam, and it wasn't flush enough so that it gave off like a weird brightness to it. But yeah, that ability to have the teleprompter and better yet, the ability to make eye contact was very nice. It's also just huge and it was taking up like half of my screens. I couldn't see around them. It was a pain in the butt to like take down.
Yeah, that's actually, so I have a 55-inch TV as my monitor, and there's always a camera in my face blocking whatever thing I'm trying to do. So I guess my real wish list would be like a massive ass television that would have a hidden camera, like, sort of view through, like right in the middle with like no cutout. So I was just talking into this screen that had a camera inside it. That would be my favorite. Like I love working with an absolutely giant screen. So.
I love that idea. I'm going to look into that. All right. I guess we'll have to, create another startup together and go on that entrepreneurial journey. And also, what's your favorite podcast that you're listening to? Any that like you're not going to let them go by without getting the latest episode, or you'll drop what you're doing to check them out?
There is. I'm a big personal finance nerd, and I love Ramit Sethi, Money for Couples. So he coaches couples on the show about their personal finance, and he's of course got a whole model. And I, as a business guy, just like I love this dude's funnel because he hits you at every place. Like you are on the emails, you're on the like he just is a monster of content. But it's actually really good advice, psychology of money essentially, and how. You can manage that stuff. I'm a former financial planner, and that's always been like really valuable to me to have money systems. So yeah, check it out.
I think I could talk to you for like 3 more hours and just go on random tangents all over the place, but we'll spare the audience and everybody else and let you get back to your day. We've been chatting with Ledge, also David Ledgerwood. He's the co-founder and revenue lead at Listen Network. That's listennetwork.co. You can find a link, obviously, in the show notes. We'll also put a link to David's LinkedIn so you can see some of the great stuff that he is posting online. It has been a pleasure, sir, and I hope we get to do this again. Thanks for coming on.
Absolutely. Thanks, Mathew.